I am Honorable Utaara Mootu. I am one of the youngest elected members for the Parliament of the Republic of Namibia. Well, women and youth have been severely affected by the pandemic through the economic decline led by multiple lockdowns through the continent and globally as well. Women have been globally underpaid in comparison to male in specific jobs. And because of that, the pandemic has caused a decline in that wage, which is already low due to the patriarchal and inequalities that women face, and now has been exacerbated through the lack of savings, and they have now taken up the responsibilities of caregivers within their communities and also back at home. The effects of the political angle, COVID-19 affected civic participation, direct civic participation in the politics of the country, due to the fact that due to lockdowns, we're not able to go into the regions to get information that will help us in the policy implementation and policy development stages within Parliament to ensure that we bring inclusive policies that speak on the rights of women, that speaks on the development of the youth. This was a critical decline. I believe that COVID-19 created such a shock in the political industry due to the fact that it was mainly in my country politically driven rather than the frontline workers being the ones to spearhead information dissemination on information on vaccines. COVID has been largely politicized to the fact that it made it very difficult as a lawmaker to, for instance, engage the community, because many of the people saw it as a political gimmick and didn't seriously, in the first stages, take COVID seriously. And also it also interfered in other development issues, such as the access of land, such as issues on dealing with the combating of HIV, dealing with cancer. We had a shift in terms of priority to ensure that we zoom into the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to motions for women's rights, motions for young people being sidelined because we were mainly fixated on how do we protect our people from the pandemic, which led to then also an inequality in other issues being effectively advocated for that directly affects the wellness of young people and women in the communities. Due to the fact that I'm also a member of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, so I would like to highlight the SADC Parliamentary Forum, what we did recently last month, that we had a joint committee session that was held in Johannesburg, South Africa, Johannesburg, that looked into creating a gender-based violence model law that is going to effectively being used within the member states to enhance their fight against gender-based violence and to be applied to their domestic laws, such as the progressive terms that we use as the redefining of the term of consent in terms of rape cases. We also looked into redefining or strengthening facilities such as safe homes for women, such as where we can strengthen their capacity and linking them with the police force, whereby women do not necessarily have to go from wherever they have been placed. For instance, a rape victim, after she has done her checkup, she's able to be linked to a psychologist that will help her for counseling, and also directly can have the legal assistance, and also is able to open up a case. But then we have seen in my country that women have to go from the hospital directly to the police station, which is far in terms of traveling and transporting. And in fact, that puts a lot of trauma to someone who has already gone through the trauma of being raped. So we try to ensure that we have institutions that can have all of the necessary support in terms of legal, the economical support in terms of, for instance, if you do not have financial means to open a case or have a legal representation, there are institutions that can work at that specific same home, rather than having to then ask for assistance in other institutions, which could either then lead to the more trauma for the victim, or which could lead to sometimes the case being withdrawn, because we see this a lot of cases that are open for rape victims, but then due to social influence and family influence, for instance, if an uncle had been the one to rape, there are always cases that just become dropped, for instance. So we also looked into how we can strengthen our laws to continue the investigation process for victims that have suddenly dropped cases against perpetrators, because we have noticed that sometimes it is not the consent of the victim, but it is the social pressures. So I think this is a progressive model that will not only be used in the SADC member states, but can also be extended to our sister member states within the parliamentary forums of the other regions to enhance the fight against gender-based violence and to ensure that our laws are just and they speak for the victim. This is a phenomenal achievement, just not for herself, but the women all over Africa and just Africa in general, because this allows and opens a channel for people like myself, young women in communities, so that they can able to aspire to fill up the international positions that have been predominantly male and predominantly Western. So this is a victory for us women and African women, whereby she can also be used as a pivotal role to ensure that we get to push the agenda, not just of women, but of African women. Because in a feminist scope, the Western women goes through various challenges. There is challenges that women feel that is on par on a global scale, but African women face difficult challenges and different challenges in comparison to women of Western culture. For instance, women in Western cultures are seen mostly in the executive positions in comparison to that of African women. In fact, researchers state that the face of poverty is an African Black rural woman. So it just shows that African women have been economically sidelined, and this appointment is a victory for all women. It is inspirational and ensures that she can use her role to shift the lens to African needs and African demands by codifying laws within the International Commission that speak to the African woman and the African girl child. What my hope would be is that we strengthen the rule of law institutions through giving them technical assistance and developing policies and tools that build the capacity and advanced skills within institutions that are custodians of the rule of law within our region. I would want more training for law institutions and also capacity training linked with other people, other institutions to harmonize our efforts to effectively place the rule of law or promote the rule of law within the region and within the African continent. So I think those are the two issues: institution and the law officials should be strengthened.